Welcome, everybody, to Sit Downs with City Lifestyle Vegas Edition. I'm Camila Soleure, your host for today, publisher of Red Rock and South Vegas City Lifestyle magazines. I have here a returning guest, Mike Bajorek with Priority Wealth Partners. He has been in our podcast last year talking about financial planning, and it was such an interesting conversation, although not enough knowledge because we don't really have, more than 25, 30 minutes to go over what everybody does. So I brought him back. And so welcome again. Thank you so much for coming and being here today, Mike.
Thank you. I love it.
Very good. And today we're going to specify the conversation a little bit more, talk about retirement, returns, risks, income-generated retirement versus growth, all that good stuff. And because it's not my jam, I'm a publisher, I have here a cheat sheet to consult. So, what is retirement? A lot of people think it's like a milestone. They want to reach retirement when it's actually a lifestyle transition.
It really is.
Right? Talk to us a little bit about that.
The concept of retirement has changed so much over the decades. It's more now, what does it seem to you? Because for me, as an example, I would never just stop working entirely. I don't know how. That's not how my brain is wired. I always need something to do. For some people, retirement is, I want to go on vacation all the time and maybe live on a cruise ship.
Yeah.
For some people, it's just leave me alone. I want to hang out in my backyard in the pool. And for other people, it is, I don't want to work 80 hours a week anymore, maybe 20 to 30, and then spend more time with my family. So that's been the transition of retirement, because if you look back into the early to mid 1900s when pensions were really, really prevalent, families planned for the husband to work really, really long, really hard, and then at a certain age, let's call it 60 years old, 65 years old, boom, work is over, the pension kicks in, they have money for the rest of their lives. Wow. That doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, unfortunately. Or fortunately, because it makes things more interesting and exciting, right?
It can.
And 50 is the new 30.
Right.
60 is the new 40, right? So people are healthier now. They live longer. Right? So planning is super important.
That's me next year, 60 years old next year.
Oh, my goodness. You're so healthy. I mean, you take really good care of yourself.
I try.
Yeah, very good. So what's the biggest mistake that people make in the final years before actually retiring when it comes to their investment strategy? What do you think?
Quite often, it's a combination of the expectations of how much they're going to really spend in retirement. Because traditionally people are told, 60, maybe 70% of what you make now will be sufficient in retirement. Well, I disagree, because if your goals are to retire and do fun things, go travel and see the world.
It's really 60 to 70%?
Yeah, that's what they're saying. And that's,
wow.
I just disagree.
Yeah.
In my opinion, you work your whole life. You save money. You want to be able to enjoy your retirement. And if you don't have enough money to do the things you really enjoy, then what really is retirement? So, one of the biggest mistakes is following the old method of calculation of how much you really need. And then secondarily, it's just not having the right portfolio put in place, and then you end up getting your knees cut off when you least expect it. As an example, in 2022, we saw some really bad markets, both in stocks and bonds. And a lot of people historically have shifted toward bonds to be what they would consider safe and to have consistent income. Well, 2022 showed them that didn't happen, and a lot of people had to go back to work, unfortunately.
Really?
So that's a huge mistake, and it's not on them. They just had bad advice.
Yeah, and risk-taking is a huge thing that we're going to talk about in a little bit. And at what point should someone start shifting from growth-focused investment to income-focused ones?
Definitely something they need to pay attention to within 10 years of what their ideal retirement age is going to be.
Oh, so 10 years before the actual retirement date? Okay.
Because you need to start putting strategies in place. It's like, as an example, if you're going on a trip in the old days, there was no GPS. You had to pick up this big, it's called a Rand McNally, it's a big road atlas. And you had to plan where you're going to go, otherwise you weren't going to make it.
Right.
And and retirement is very similar. I mean, yes, we have ChatGPT, Claude, Grok, you name it. It's all out there, right? But unfortunately, there's a lot of misinformation on the internet, especially on the forums, on Reddits, on you name it. It's all over the place.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of misdirection. So my suggestion would be, at the very least, 10 years before you're looking to retire, do a thorough review. And if your advisor is not on point with giving you the steps you need to take to get there, then maybe it's time to see another advisor.
Yeah. Why do people wait too long? Why do you think people wait too long?
They're nervous, they're afraid, because unfortunately, again, same thing. It's when you're not sure if you're doing a great job, you might be embarrassed to talk to somebody.
Oh, yes.
I can't tell you how often people come to my office and they're nervous, they're afraid, they're embarrassed. And
Yeah.
so I tell them my
I can
background.
relate, yeah.
You know, I grew up on the south side of Chicago. There was nothing to be embarrassed about with me. I
Yeah.
understand what it's like to be broke. So
Yeah.
you know, I like to have those conversations. Just be real with people. We're all humans, right?
Yeah,
Let's
we're
have
all
the
humans.
conversation.
But there's, I just a little off topic here. The other day I met a person that's known in our community at a parking lot, and he follows me on Facebook, and we were talking. He's like, "Oh, I love your posts. You're so vulnerable, so raw. You talk about what people don't talk about, because everybody's like, oh my, look at me, selfie."
Right.
So it can be so artificial.
It is.
Right, and then there's no relatedness. There's no
Exactly.
connection. Everybody goes through tough times.
Agreed.
And money is a taboo. It's still a taboo,
Right.
right?
People are hesitant to really talk about it and be, not only honest with the person they're speaking with, but honest with themselves.
Because you are really an accountability. Of course, you have your talents, your skills, your investment, but you are our accountability buddy, right?
Yes.
For money.
Absolutely.
I
And that's
love
quite
that.
often what I become. I become
Yeah.
not only a financial coach for people, but somewhat of a life coach as well.
That's
So,
that's awesome.
Bounce it off me.
It doesn't surprise me because
Yeah.
you have a lot of emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
You're really good at listening to people and helping them reach their dreams. And I was really surprised to learn today that people are content with having a drop in their lifestyle by 60 to 70, by wanting to earn just 60 to 70% of what they earn now.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's unbelievable. That's unbelievable. Before we get into the volatility conversation, I want to ask you, because I know some people in my own family and just throughout life that they think that they can manage money on their own. They can do the savings, they can choose where to invest, what to do. What is the biggest advantage of hiring a financial planner?
Putting things in the hands of somebody who does it every single day
Mm-hmm.
and has an objective opinion. Because quite often when people do it themselves, they invest emotionally. And this is one of the biggest conversations I have with people, especially in the recent years, is our markets now change emotionally instead of logistically.
Oh,
Every
really?
single day. You watch, there's a tweet in the morning will change the market in the morning. 10 minutes later, a post on Facebook changes it again. And then all of a sudden there's another tweet on it's unbelievable. It happens all the time. So if that happens just in the markets alone, imagine what happens in somebody's own mind when they're struggling and they're afraid. They make a trade, it's not going well, they start panicking. It's kind of like, being at a casino, right? You already lost $15,000. You're like, it's going to hit now, it's going to hit now.
Yeah.
And that's not the right strategy. So, the whole goal is to work with someone who can understand your personal circumstances and help you put together that foundation that doesn't shake. Because if you build a house on a weak foundation, it's going to crumble down eventually.
House of cards, right?
You bet.
Yeah. And you also have access to different investments that we as lay people don't. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct. There are a lot of differences in the financial industry, just like in many industries. There are different levels of licensing you can get. There are different affiliations with companies. Even whether the firm's large or small is inconsequential. It's what do you have available in the marketplace, and what can you do for your clients? And so, for myself and my advisors in my office, we're all fully independent fiduciaries. And what that really means at the end of the day is we're legally obligated to do what's in your best interest. Not that we wouldn't anyway, but that extra license, has a little bit extra government oversight. And so it tells us we need to do what's in your best interest. Well, if we don't have the facilities to be able to do that, we're only doing the best we can for what we have available.
Right.
So our goal when we founded this firm was to make sure we had everything available, so whatever it is our clients need that'll best suit them, that's what we can provide.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. That's very good to know, right? Because some people, he's just going to manage my right. No, they have access to investments that are very profitable that we don't have as lay people.
Especially with some of the other firms too. And just to close this out really quickly, just 2 weeks ago, another new advisor came to our office. He was from another firm, has been there 8 years. had no idea what he was missing out on. And when we showed him the things we're doing for our clients, he's like, yeah, that doesn't exist. I'm like, oh, it sure does. It just doesn't exist at your firm. And I found out why. It was a very large firm, and unfortunately, they have the mentality of what's called pay for play, which a lot of people would hear that and say, oh, that's illegal. Well, not necessarily. The way it's worked in the industry, a lot of these products and these firms have to write a larger check to these bigger firms to be offered on their preferred platform.
Oh.
And then you get left out, and now because of that, your clients suffer.
Well, that's
and
not good.
That bothers me. That's just
not good.
No, that is not good.
Yeah, well. So, going to volatility now.
Yes.
Can you walk us through what it actually looks like when someone retires into a volatile portfolio? And what is a volatile portfolio? Please explain that to me.
Okay. And that, to me, there's a word called correlation.
Okay.
And that's how things directly or indirectly follow a particular type of market. Okay, so it doesn't matter if we're talking about stocks or bonds or consumables, commodities, food, groceries, oil, gas, you name it, right? Those are all different markets. And when something has a one-to-one correlation with that market, that means it'll pretty much be in lockstep. When that goes up, the value goes up. When it goes down, the value goes down.
Okay.
So that right there is the initial conversation of volatility. Well, people have to chase larger returns, better capacity for returns because they didn't plan early enough, whether just through personal circumstances or maybe they weren't told, they weren't educated well, or maybe they just had bad advice. You never know what it is.
Right.
And that's, again, why people don't want to talk about it because they internalize it, think, oh, it's all my fault.
Yeah, and it can be shameful.
And, and there really is no fault. It just is what it is.
Yeah.
So, let's look at the next phase. So volatility is that alone. And so people think, and because, again, the internet, conventional wisdom that you hear about for decades, it'll tell you that stocks are volatile and risky, bonds are conservative and safe. That's not at all the truth.
Yeah.
There is another completely entire world out there that's unknown to most people that you don't even look at. So.
And the fact that bonds are known as safe, you just said a few minutes ago what happened in 2022.
Yes.
Right? It just proved that they're not.
That's correct.
Right?
And when you're in a bond market and you're taking income of, let's say, 4% from those bonds and they go down 20,
wow.
you just lost a
a
big
lot
portion of your income.
Money, for sure. That's scary. That is very scary.
It really is.
Yeah. And there's a concept called sequence of returns risk. Can you please explain it in plain language?
Right.
This is what I love about you. Like, I have no idea what we're discussing until you answer the question. So please explain in plain language and why it matters so much in the first few years of retirement. So again, sequence of returns risk.
There's so many phrases on the internet and in common life that people assume they really understand. And where there's a relation historically that people think if you take on more risk, you can make more return. If you take on less risk, you're not going to make as much return.
Okay.
That also is not true. Not entirely anyway. There's a curve there. And so where people fall short is, again, bad advice. They'll tell their advisors, another new client that I just recently, retired couple, or they're about to retire, in their late 60s. And their previous advisor, they were planning a few years ago, told them, we need to start scaling back the volatility. We don't want to take so much risk. We want to make sure we have the income we need in retirement. So he was scaling them back more into the bond type of markets, really conservative, which completely chopped the head off of their returns.
Wow.
They were making so little that
Really? Yeah.
they were now setting themselves up for failure in retirement based on their goals.
Oh, my goodness.
And so that, to me, they were doing a disservice.
Yeah.
So I explained a little about that specifically to them. I said, you don't have to completely neuter your returns by minimizing risk. You just have to do it differently. There are many different ways to get to the top of the mountain.
Yeah.
You just have to pick the path that works best for you.
I can see that. It's like a puzzle. You put together a puzzle.
It really is.
And it's kind of dynamic. It's its own microcosm, right?
Yes.
Wow. This is fascinating. I love it. And most people have heard that 4 to 5% withdrawal rule. Why are you seeing that fall short for many retirees today?
Well, cost of living. And we also live in a really instant-on world, right? Instant gratification.
Right.
So what's happening is over time, people forget the basics of paying yourself first. You know, they want to keep up with the neighbors, keep up with the Joneses, and like you mentioned earlier, social media.
Yeah.
You know, all the people with the selfies and look how awesome my life is. Meanwhile, that's AI behind you making those scenes,
Yeah.
and they didn't actually pay for that trip. They're not even really there. They're in somebody's back room with a green screen and made a great looking life, right?
Yeah.
Look at this. I put $25 in this stock and I made 15 million. No, you didn't.
That's not how it works.
It didn't happen that way.
Yeah.
You know, but 4 to 5% is again going back to that conventional wisdom. That's what people have been hearing for decades, for generations, really. So as an example, if you had $1 million in your retirement account put away, you can expect to make $40,000 to $50,000 a year for the rest of your life without running out of money too early, because people are living longer today.
Yeah.
And so that money needs to last longer.
Right.
So unfortunately, how many people today in middle America, after taking care of the house, the 3 cars, the kids, the dogs, and then keeping up with all the things they see on social media, actually can put away multiple 7 figures to have 100, 200,000 in retirement income consistently with that rule?
That's unrealistic.
So we throw that out the window.
Yeah.
Because of all these other investments that we talked about, you don't have to settle for 4 to 5%. We can very consistently perform 6 to 7 return on your income. So that same $1 million will now make you $60,000 to $70,000 a year without running out of money and without exposing yourself to too much volatility.
Wow, that's great. I love that.
You just need the right tool for the job.
Yeah. And really understand the market and the expenses. And I think educating your clients is really part of your job.
Exactly.
Right? Opening their eyes, right?
You bet.
Very cool. Okay, and what strategies are you, Mike, using to help clients generate more consistent income without taking on excessive risk?
Okay, that's a great question.
Oh, I'm glad you like it. I came prepared.
There's a huge bucket there. And that's one of the easiest ways to describe it, buckets of money, right? If you look at some of the old diagrams that you do in school where, they have, 6 different buckets with holes at different spots, they fill them all with water, which one's going to fill up which first? I mean, those are fun things you do in elementary and junior high. Well, financially, you can do the same exact thing. You can talk about buckets. And so inside of one investment account, you can strategize with different buckets of investments to do different things. So as an example, money that you're going to need in the short term for that income can be more structured and conservative and have very little volatility. So that way when you need it, it's just going to stay consistent. And then you can scale it up from there without, again, going into full market exposure. What I mean by that is, people love it when the stock market's up 30% because they make 30%.
Yeah.
But they also, if you're near or in retirement, a 30% loss is going to devastate your retirement.
For sure.
And so you can't do that. How do you make more than 4 to 5% without exposing yourself to risk? Well, there are so many alternative type of investments out there that have, remember we talked about correlation.
Yeah.
Okay. There are a lot of fancy terms I can use that a lot of financial advisors throw out.
No.
Nobody likes those because you know what? I don't need to feel smart. I just need to help you understand what it means.
Yeah.
And so correlation, what that means to me is if you have 1-to-1, okay, that means you're 100% lockstep with what the market's going to do. Now imagine if you have something that's, let's say, 0.05, a fraction of the correlation of the market. So what that means is if the market goes up 40, you're not going to see 40. If the market goes down 40, you're not going to see that either. What we're looking at is as much independence from the general markets as you can be while still generating more than sufficient income to average that 7 to 9% category.
Wow.
So that way if you're withdrawing 7, but yet there are some years where we're doing 8 and 9, you're outperforming your withdrawals. On the years where we're doing 7, you're still flat that year, which means you're not going to run out of money. So why take the risk when you don't have to? Now you can have a consistent retirement, be able to sleep at night knowing that, yes, your vacation you just bought, you could still afford to go.
Yeah.
And you don't have to worry about while you're gone, is the market going to drop 20%? Am I going to lose all my retirement?
Well, it's a mastery, right? Knowing how to put all these pieces together, it's a mastery. I commend you. That's fascinating. Thank you for being here today.
Some of those investments are a little bit, we can get into another 3-hour conversation on that, but to keep it really short, it's
You'll be back.
Outside of the market, things that have really good consistency, but they're not direct stocks and bonds, because still a lot of people will turn to, let's say, stocks that have high dividends. Well, you still own the underlying stock, which means you're subject to that market risk. That's something that somebody who's 65, 70 years old shouldn't be stuck in, for lack of a better phrase, right? You shouldn't have to be exposed to that volatility. So let's protect that more. There are a lot of neat things you can do and put in place, guardrails you can put in place, kind of like when you go bowling, those bumpers.
Yeah.
You know, you put up the bumpers to keep yourself from falling in the gutter.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we do with investments to keep you from having to hit those gutters when the market goes down.
Interesting. Great comparison. Great analogy. So what does a retirement done right actually look like day to day for your clients?
Whew. That's different for everybody. Different for me too, you know, but let's say as an example, let's use, you as a hypothetical. Let's say you tell me that within the next 20 years, you want to just be able to travel the world. You want to do your own selfies on Instagram.
Oh my God, you know my dream.
Sip some margaritas or some martinis or whatever
Yeah.
on somebody's yacht out off the coast of Costa Rica. I mean, who knows what it's going to be, right?
Yeah.
Well, what we have to do is we have to reverse engineer that. Let's take a look at what does that type of retirement actually cost in today's dollars. Reverse engineer the numbers and say, is this possible with where you're at today? If it is, great, let's continue the current path. If it's not, how do we change the path to be able to get there, and what does it take? So now we're going to assign a numerical value to that. Now you have the facts. So now instead of wondering or wishing, it's kind of the difference between, when people write down goals. You can have goals in your mind, but until you write them down and take action to achieve them, they're wishes, they're dreams.
Right.
And so a lot of wishes and dreams turn into goals when you decide, you know what, I am absolutely going to do this. No matter what, I'm going to find a way. So then you write it down and you develop a map to get there. So that's what we do. That's really what the retirement looks like. Is it starts with the dream and the goal, and then you work backwards to what it's going to cost, what do you need to do now, and are we early enough to make that happen?
Right.
Because if you're 60 and you have $20 in the bank and you have $150,000 in credit card debt, and you tell me you want to retire and go on vacation, the next thing I'm going to say is that's not going to happen.
Right.
Okay, so let's talk about realistically what we can do. But if you're 30 and we have that conversation, we have another 35 years to plan for that.
For sure.
Because time really, really is our most valuable asset.
Oh, yeah,
Once you spend it, it doesn't come back.
True that.
Yep.
I'm a big believer and advocate for that concept.
Right.
What do you wish more people in their 40s and 50s understood about retirement that they typically don't think about when it's almost too late?
Oh, gosh. That is a huge question. What do I wish more 40 and 50-year-old people thought about prior to retirement?
Yeah.
Engaging with a professional, first off, because again, they're nervous, they're afraid, they're concerned maybe. And it doesn't even matter how much money you have. I can't even begin to tell you how many people that already have multiple millions still feel broke and are concerned about speaking with an advisor because they're embarrassed they don't have enough. So it's not always about how much money you have, it's about the mentality behind it. And how you were raised and what society teaches you, right?
Yeah.
Because somebody always does better than you. Great, good on them.
Yeah. So it's really not about being 40 or 50. It's about really being open to being educated, informed, and start planning as early as possible.
Have that coach, have that someone that's going to be in your corner. Don't just hire a financial person because they can invest in the market for you. Hire somebody that's going to be not only your accountability partner, your coach, your cheerleading squad.
Yeah, your friend.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
I love it when my clients, not only do, what they plan to do, but do better. That's
I love
fun
that
for me.
too, yeah.
So
for sure.
Short version of a long story. Some longtime friends and clients of mine. Well, started out as clients, now they're friends as well. And they were planning on retiring in their early 60s because there's some underlying medical issues they knew were going to happen, and so they did everything they were supposed to do, and came and met with me not even a few months ago. And they said, looks like we're going to have to ramp that up a little bit. We're going to have to retire about 2 years earlier than planned. I'm like, okay. They're okay. I'm like, yeah, you can do that. Really, we can? You not only did everything you were supposed to do, you went above and beyond.
Wow, how amazing.
They just performed so well. We put together the plan, and in typical type A type of mentality, they overperformed.
That's
They
awesome.
did more than what they were supposed to, and now because of that, circumstances change in their lives. They can take advantage of that and retire 2 years earlier than they want to.
Amazing. That's so good to hear. I love success stories.
That's huge.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's you go home at night and you just have a great time.
For sure.
Because you just smile from ear to ear because they did what they wanted to do.
Yeah. And it's a mutual trust process.
It is.
Right? They trusted you. You trust them to do what they need to do. So everybody's successful at the end.
Right.
Very cool.
Exactly.
So in closing, if someone is 5 years from retirement and they realize that their portfolio may not be where it needs to be, what's the first step that they should take to correct that or change their, I don't know, like what's the first step they should take to correct that?
The first step is obviously the realization that there's some issues. You feel that there's a shortfall. So let's say as an example, they would call me. We would right away sit down and meet. If they're local, we'll meet in my office. If they're across the country, we'll meet on Zoom. But then we'll have a real heart-to-heart conversation. Okay, what happened? Why are you disappointed? Where are you at? Where do you think you need to be? Now let's take a look at what's here. Let me tell you what's possible. And then we'll look at multiple scenarios. So it's, you already addressed there's an issue. Now let's figure out how to solve that issue. If it's even solvable to your liking, you may not get everything you're looking for, but let's figure out a way to do some damage control right now. Let's take back control over what's happening with your portfolio. And then most importantly, let's look at what you're doing every day. Because what I've found quite often is day-to-day habits. Habits are something that after you do them consistently over time, they're unconscious. They just happen every single day without even thinking about it, right? And one of the hardest things as humans that we do is change habits. That is very difficult, and some people don't even ever want to. It's uncomfortable. It puts you in an uncomfortable position.
For sure.
And so, the goal is to, address that, and it's not about fault or blame, and my hope is that with our conversation, I can ease that concern because we're not here to point fingers. We're not here to say, oh, you should have done that. That's not what I'm here for. I've been there. I grew up on the south side of Chicago. I know what it's like. So let's just have a real conversation. Okay, here's where you're at today. Doesn't matter why you ended up there, but let's take a look at the steps you're doing every day from the moment you wake up. Are there things we can change to help improve that? And then what can we do with your current assets in your portfolio to make it perform a little better? It may mean you need to take a little extra risk. That's unfortunate, but if that's where you're at, if you're truly behind the 8 ball, we might need to get a little more aggressive than we normally would at that age, but we're playing catch up right now. So let's lay it out on the table. I'll show you exactly what the couple scenarios are, and let's choose which one makes you a little uncomfortable, but not wanting to vomit at the end of the day, because that's too nervous, right?
Yes, the feeling is not pleasant at all to want to vomit at the end of the day because, in the end, we are solely responsible for the choices that we make.
We are.
And sometimes we do make choices that are not in our favor. And sometimes it's consciously, a lot of the times unconsciously. And slow and steady, I guess, is the way to go.
It really is, and slow and steady doesn't mean bad returns like it used to. And unfortunately, again, with the internet, with social media, there are too many of those fake stories of people hitting it big, the get-rich-quick thing. And when you're already feeling like you're behind, you're prone to want to do that, and that's how you end up getting scammed. And it's sad, but it's a horrible story, but I had to help a couple that were just in their 80s, and that happened to them, and they lost their life savings.
Oh, no,
that should have
sad.
Retired colonel in the Army. I mean, it should have never happened, but
That's
it did.
so sad.
So.
Yeah, you go on Instagram. I go on Instagram, and there are these accounts, right? Oh, X did this, he bought this, and then he scaled, and now he's retired at 25. He only works 4 hours a week. I mean, a day or a week, whatever.
Whatever it is, yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, really? Who doesn't want that? If that was possible, everybody would be doing it.
Correct.
Right? Or more people. I would know more people that I don't know anybody. Anyway.
But I'm not saying that never happens, but it is so rare that your chances of hitting the lottery are better than that.
Yeah, or winning at a casino.
Agreed. 3-card
Very
poker.
good. Mike, it was such a pleasure, so enlightening, so informational to have you here today with us. Thank you so much for coming and taking the time.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Amazing. You share every time you come. You share. You're so humble. You share your wealth of knowledge that you have, and you're always willing to contribute to people's growth and ease of mind, right? Or peace of mind is a better expression. And any final words before we wrap it up?
Don't be afraid to contact me or some other advisor, even if it's not me.
Okay.
Because what I do with people is I'm very, very straightforward. I don't even charge you to meet for a first consultation. I just want to know, can I help you?
Right.
And if so, this is what I can do. And if it works for you, great, we can work together. And if not, that's cool. You'll just leave my office learning a little bit more than you knew before you got there.
Yeah. And so tell us, How can people contact you if they're interested in learning more about, your strategies, the way you work, etc.?
Well, you can find me on LinkedIn, on Facebook, we're actually going to launch a YouTube channel as well.
Oh, wow.
You can find me in the City Lifestyle magazines.
Yes. Oh, there's an article. I have to share some magazines with you today.
There is.
Awesome.
My office is in downtown Summerlin, but I do have clients all across the country, so I'm not limited to a geographical area. So all you have to do is you can reach me directly at my phone number. You can call me at 702-274-6600.
Awesome. Mike Bajorek, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, and that's a wrap. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. And till next time.